here I will explain how I see that our experiences are formed in our mind. In my view, our experiences are formed in these three parts. Then there is emotion, thought, and physical sensation, and it's usually illustrated in this triangle. And the order of those three can be different. So it can be that first you get a thought, and then emotion, and then physical sensation. So it doesn't matter the order. But in my view, these three parts forms our experience, and then there is a kind of a second stage of the experience, is how do you react to that experience. So I will give you an example so it will be easier to understand. For example, if I say something offensive to you, you might get for example, emotion of anger. Then you get a thought. For example, that person is really arrogant. And then you get a physical sensation when your heart pulse will increase. So those three forms your experience, and then comes your reaction. How do you react to my offensive saying? And that reaction can be different in different person. It can be you say something offensive to me, or you can shout, or even punch, or whatever the reaction would be in different person. Or I think the conscious reaction would be you recognize your experience, you recognize your emotion, you recognize your thought, and you recognize your physical sensation, and you just let them go. So that would be a conscious reaction. But in my view, the first part of the experience and then the reaction forms it's like a experience of an experience. So you experience the experience. I will explain this in a while. But then there is another thing, is that where does those experiences evolve? Where do they come from? For example, if I say something offensive to you, your mind will recognize that and transforms that to for example, emotion or thought or physical sensation. So there's something that will recognize my sayings. And what is that something? In my view, that is your higher self, and it can be, in my view, it can be an experience. I call it an experiencer. In different theories, it can be ego also, so that's your higher self that will recognize those happenings and transforms that to some emotion or thought or physical sensation. But in my view, when you refuse to experience the experience, so you don't you suffocate your emotions and you refuse to recognize those. In my view, in when it happens, your experiences are kind of stored in a pain body. This is usually like the Eckhart Tolle is also talking about this pain body. So the pain body is kind of a storage of negative experiences that you haven't experienced. And those negative experiences will kind of cause you some kind of problems, because when you have a lot of them stored in your pain body will become active, and then you get to the negative kind of cycle. So your thoughts are filled with negativity, your emotions are always negative, and your physical sensation can be you get a stomach ache or something physical also. And that is, I think, what happened to me also when I have this negative cycle. And in my view, what happens when I experience the awakening, then in my view, my mind went to the kind of a higher state, which I call observer. So it's your higher self, and then higher than experiencer. And that is nothing to do with intelligence. It's the different stages in your consciousness. So this is like a stages in the level of awareness, and there are more. I just put there 2 of those here, but what I will explain what's the difference when you're an observer or when you're on experience stage. In observer, what I noticed that in that stage I can more of a like observe my experiences. So I'm not kind of a I am experiencing those, but I can observe those experiences and decide how do I react to those. And another thing is that, for example, when we usually have some kind of ideas, we call it kind of a aha moments. But then you have a different kind of thoughts coming to your mind so much so you don't know what's the good ideas which come from. I think we can call it somebody call it so, you listen to your heart or you listen to your soul, but usually you don't. It's hard to kind of know which of your ideas come from your heart or soul or whatever, or what comes from your ego or whatever is the different part of which we call like the what I call an experiencer, which is not the like your false self. So it's hard to recognize of those 2. But in my view, when you are in observer stage, you can be always in a mode that you will know when your thoughts are coming from your own self, what I call an observer, or not from your false self, which is here the experiencer. So when you're in the observer stage, you are always guided with your intuition. So that's my view of what's the difference, but I will explain this in a more coming videos. But next video I will explain how our reality is formed by our experiences. So hopefully I will see you in the next video. So bye.